Hey guys, check this out. Got some results here from an 8,500 mile service interval on Motul 300V 4T. This was done in a CBR 1000RR. I'm gonna go over the numbers. This is not just some harebrained stunt that I've done here. The service interval recommended by the manufacturer is 8,000 miles. And as you're going to see in the video, I was observing that at 3,000 mile intervals, because I've always done 3,000 mile intervals, but at 3,000 miles, I was noticing the oil was like brand new. So I decided to see what would happen if I left it in for the 8,000 miles that the manufacturer recommended. And so stay tuned. 3,500 miles. It looked brand new. I'm not burning any. You get 4 liters here. When you purchase it, the vast majority of what was left over, I put in a buddy's bike. When he came by my house one day and didn't have enough oil in his, when we were leaving for a ride. I left it in, an unbelievable 8,500 miles. So what we're going to be doing here is a test. I'm going to take a sample, I'm going to send it out, and then I'll come back and finish the video up. So basically today will be, this is a Honda, I use OEM filters. Just too many issues with things like, with aftermarket filters, particularly anything that has a nut on the end, it helps take them off. I'm not going to put any particular manufacturer on blast, but you really want to stay away from those things. Factory filters from any of the major manufacturers are excellent filters. I doubt you're going to do better with something aftermarket. I do have a replacement crush ring for when I drain the oil out and put the drain plug back in. Have a socket. Mine happens to be 11 millimeter. And if you guys if you do oil changes, invest in one of these, because let me tell you something, and I know it's a little rusted up here, could take better care of it, but I've had this for a very long time and I've never had a single oil filter that didn't come off with these being used. So quit messing around, just buy a set of those and it works on every oil filter there is. Anyway, so I'm going to drain the oil, and while it's draining out of the drain plug, I'm going to take a sample using the oops, sorry about the shaky video there. Get this set right. Using this bad boy. Let's see what's in here real quick. It's got the return address already printed on it. Apparently you put a couple of stamps on it, but inside there's another bottle. Okay, I picked this up at Napa. So you're gonna fill it up to this line. You want to take the oil, you don't want to take the oil you don't want to dump it out of the filter. That's not gonna be a good result. You want to take it right, warm the engine up, undo your drain plug, take your sample from there. It comes with some paperwork that you'll want to fill out. This Napa, I think I was out the door for under $16. That includes the testing fee. So I'll fill all this out and we'll go from there. And they also have, if there's a oil testing facility closer to you than the one in Atlanta, you can select one of the other stickers and have it shipped there instead for testing. But their main facility is in Atlanta. So it's pretty nice, all-inclusive price to once in a while test your oil to see how your engine's doing. Like I said, I'm not burning any oil at all. That's one of the great things about this 300V. I don't burn any. And once we get it into the little jar, you're gonna see that even after this amount of miles, unlike most oils, it doesn't look appreciably used. All right, so I'm gonna hit pause here, do all of that, and I'll be back. All right, I want to capture this while it's draining out. As you can see, it's still clear. It's not like it's filthy oil. It still has the yellowish tint to it that's part of this double ester oil. It almost looks like antifreeze when you drip it on the ground. But I wanted you to see that, you know, how good that oil looks after 8,500 miles. Okay, here's my sample jar. Go up to the line, I went just over. Wiped it down, put the lid on real tight. I also have the bike, you know, on a rear stand to tilt it forward to get it closer to the, you know, to get a little rake in there so we get maybe a little bit better drainage on the front of the oil pan. All right, I'll put you guys on hold again. We'll get it all back together. Go from there. Well, all right, there you have it. New crush washer, new filter. Yep, shame on me. Got a little drip. But I can't wait to see what the results are going to be. And through the miracle of the internet, you won't have to wait as long as I. So stay tuned, folks. Here comes the results of the test. Yeah, one more thing I want to mention about this oil is look at the lack of oil lash. You know, the bike's in neutral. Normally, the tire's spinning a little bit. All right, well, I'm sure you guys are saying enough of all that. Let's get to the results, and here we are. So just looking at a set of results doesn't tell you a ton unless you have some type of baseline to go against. I mean, they'll tell you that wear is within spec of you know, of other tests, but it's good to have another set of numbers to compare them against. I found some lower into, you know, every test I found for CBR 1000RR, you know, same general year as mine, there were lower intervals, of course, because virtually no one does 8,000 mile intervals. We're all doing 3,000 mile intervals. I did find one with the 5,000 mile interval. I'm going to qualify as I talk about these numbers that the oil, when I did do the change, was low on the stick. So had I added a little bit, you know, had I brought it to the top of the stick, I would have reduced my parts per million. And also, the parts per million that I have is a parts per million reading at 8,500 miles for the service cycle of the oil. You know, it should have higher, you know, higher parts per million of metals, you know, in it, or contaminants in it, than would a bike or a service interval of lower mileage. Anyway, for that particular service interval. So what I'm going to post here in front of you is my results, and those are all going to be down kind of the center. And then just to the right is another sample that I found online of a Rotella T6 5,000 mile interval. It was very much in line with all of the other results that I found for my, you know, for the bike. And the parts per million were virtually linear with respect to mileage. So if you had 1,500 mile interval, they had, like, you know, 1,200 parts per million of aluminum, which would extrapolate out to, you know, what I found for the Rotella T6 online, someone else's bike, of 37 parts per million of aluminum. So anyway, let's get to my numbers compared to the 5,000 mile interval for the Rotella T6. The bigger numbers that you're looking for are whether the iron, what's the aluminum, and then you know, what viscosity is being maintained, and my 8,500 mile results were all better than the Rotella T6 5,000 mile test, which was linear, like I said, with different oils, different, with all in line with all the other tests that I found online. So I'm really happy, really pleased that 8,500 miles and there's no issues. The only number that I had that was higher, but still within the well within the linear range, because I did 70% more miles at 8,500 miles than the 5,000 mile test that I'm comparing to, and all the other tests, of course, as I've explained. But the copper content that I achieved, or dubiously, in 8,500 miles came out to, what is it, 35 parts per million. All right. The other sample that I'm comparing to here, the copper parts per million was 24. All right, so I still, at 8,500 miles, 70% more miles than 5,000, have a lower parts per million, per mile or per 1,000 miles, as it were, than the Rotella T6. Now, there's a reason for that. Probably had 40 launches on drag strips during the 8,500 miles. That's where the copper comes from. It comes out of the clutch. Aluminum, my reading was 39 parts per million. The Rotella T6 5,000 mile test that I found online was 37 parts per million. So I had 2 more parts per million of aluminum in my oil for 70% more miles. Wrap your head around that for a second. Iron 26, my iron 26. Equal. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying is, clearly in this test, the Motul 300V 4T is protecting my bike better than the other oil samples that I found online are, for other oils, are protecting those particular bikes. And I did an 8,500 mile circuit on it, duty cycle on it, and the oil passed. So good to know. I don't have to do oil changes every 3,000 miles anymore. I was doing them on other oils because the oil looked bad. It was cooked. This stuff isn't cooking off. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to do 8,000 mile cycles on it now. But basically, if I keep it under control, I'm going to be doing 1 change a year, as opposed to 3. So wrap your head around that number too. Anyway, super pleased, really excited. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, leave your comments. I don't get anything else other than that out of this, and I do respond to everyone who has something to say. And I'm not trying to say that other oils are garbage. They all protect well. For me, this has been a super find, and I have no doubt that if you try this oil, you're going to say the same. So take care. Thanks for watching.